Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar. We'll run through the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as it does look like we're going to see some real wet and windy bouts in from the west within the next couple of days, as soon as tomorrow, with a massive wall of rain pushing in from the west. It's pretty typical for autumn to be seeing these sort of conditions, but we just have so far been lucky to be without these big widespread walls of rain moving in from the west. But it's looking likely we're going to be seeing some of that tomorrow, and we're going to see repeated bouts of weather fronts and areas of stronger winds moving in as well. As I said, typical autumnal conditions. It does look like temperatures will be slowly on the up, maybe even reaching 20 degrees for a time in the south next week, as we do see a briefer push of warmer air. But as we'll see on the GFS, GEM, Ecmwf and the ensembles, it's looking highly likely the weather is going to be incredibly up and down. There's going to be periods of very unsettled, stormy, autumnal-like conditions, but also they're going to be seeing some drier, warmer periods as well. And I mean, when I say periods, I mean a day or two. It's going to be oscillating quite a lot between these two. The south, more likely to see those warmer, dry periods, and the north, more likely to see those wetter and windier periods. But as we'll have a look at the models in a minute, you'll be able to see it is just a barrage of winds in from the west and oscillating conditions depending on which is stronger at the time, the high pressure or the lower pressure. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So, as I said, if we do start on live radar, I'm recording this around 10, half 10, 11, and you can see we do have a few showers around at the moment. Nothing too crazy, a few heavier showers across parts of northern England, and further southwards, a few patchy showers here or there, but once again, nothing too much at all. And that's going to continue through today, a few showers here or there, but nothing too much before, as I said, we see that wall of rain tomorrow. Now, if I put on those temperatures, so as I'm recording this around half 10, you can see it is generally a chilly late morning, widely in those blues and yellows, so mid-teens to low teens, maybe even high single digits still, but most areas will get towards that mid-teens range, sort of 14, 15, 16 degrees by around 3 p.m. this afternoon, probably, as you are viewing this video. So, if we do go over to the UKV, and have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, you can see, as we head through this afternoon, you see a few showers across parts of the Midlands, northern England, but nothing too much at all. And as we head into tomorrow, you can see that wall of rain heading in from the west, arriving for the early hours in parts of northern and western areas, and then slowly spreading eastwards, and most of tomorrow for many areas is pretty abysmal. Perhaps the far east and the far south will be without the heavy precipitation in the morning, but as we head towards early afternoon, that rain is going to move in and give a torrential end to the day. Pretty abysmal there. Maybe parts of the north and west will get some briefer areas of sunshine and drier weather, but there does look likely to be a lot of showers packing in behind the weather front as well. Now, this will clear through quite quickly through Friday evening, dropping perhaps as much as 2 inches of rain for some over the hills in the north and the west before spreading through, and we go into a westerly flow with a lot of showers around through Saturday. We do potentially see a period of heavier precipitation, more persistent precipitation moving into the south. Depends on the run that we have a look at today. It's just skimming the far south coast. Other runs have got it further inland, so we have to keep an eye on this through late Saturday to early Sunday, because it could be quite a big area of persistent, annoying precipitation. But for the time being on this run, it is just hanging onto that south coast areas towards the M4 line northwards. Maybe a bit of thicker cloud, but generally quite dry. Beyond that, we do have a few showers we can see through Sunday. Generally, we're under a ridge of high pressure. You can see mostly dry, a few showers here or there, and a lot of sunshine. Probably wouldn't be too bad out there. And as we head into Monday, you see another wall of rain. This is what I mean by these oscillating conditions. One day, it'll be reasonably dry, sunny, maybe even a hint of a little bit of warmth in the air. Other days it'll be cold, rainy and miserable, and that will spread through. It does disintegrate really as it moves in against the higher pressure, but it could produce some heavier rain for a time, especially in the north and the west. Now, if you look at the max temperatures over the next couple of days, you'll be able to see it does really depend on the cloud and precipitation amounts. So that's why these are going to be very difficult to say, depending on timings of precipitation bands, where the cloud is, showers form. These temperatures could be a good couple of degrees either side of what they're showing here today, so do take these with a grain of salt. So if we do have a look, you can see today the temperature's perhaps peaking around that 15 to 17 degree mark, but widely sort of in the mid-teens in general. Overnight tonight, temperatures will drop down to around mid to high single digits, so pretty chilly if you are out late or up early. And into tomorrow afternoon, you can see those temperatures rising not too much under that rain band, perhaps only 10 to 12 degrees. Further eastwards, further westwards of the rain band, maybe 15 to 16 degrees, but it still won't feel all too warm with thicker cloud around and heavier showers, especially behind it as well. So yeah, tomorrow does not look like a good day if you've got plans to go out and about. Into Saturday, you can see overnight temperatures don't fall down quite as low, perhaps only 10-11 degrees because we have the cloud around, a slightly warmer air mass for a time, especially in the south. And Saturday afternoon, as I said, it could be a generally warmer, dry day, 18-19 degrees, not too bad. But, as I said, it's going to be real up and down, and as we head into Sunday, you see those overnight temperatures do drop away quite a bit more with clearer skies, and into Sunday afternoon, maybe a degree or two cooler, 17-18, further northwards much cooler with precipitation starting to move in, and you see Monday early hours mid to high single digits, and Monday afternoon maybe 18-19 degrees once again in the south, but much cooler in the north where we have more unsettled, wetter conditions. And that is just going to be the constant theme over the next couple of weeks. Now, if we go over to the GFS and have a look what that is showing over the next couple of weeks. Now, some of you maybe having a look over down to America, looking at devastating Category 4 Hurricane Ian, which is now dissipating. It is moving away. It's down to tropical storm status as I'm recording this. So the worst conditions are over, but it did look pretty terrible, and I do put my prayers out to any people affected by that storm. But some people watching these videos may ask, is that storm going to impact us in any way? Now, it's always impossible to say exactly the influence of any storm, but it's looking highly likely this storm will have very little impact on the weather in the UK, simply because it is forming down into Florida and it's dissipating over land in Florida. So it, of course, loses its strength quite a bit once it comes inland. Yes, it's quite a large area of lower pressure, large hurricane. So it does have a lot of influence, but it looks likely to stall a bit over parts of eastern America. And what that means is it just sucks out a lot of the moisture and the warmth from the system. By the time it eventually gets to the northeast, eventually integrates into the jet stream, it's quite a weak area of low pressure, not going to have a lot of influence on us. So fortunately for us, it does look like Hurricane Ian will be almost non-existent by the time it could start to affect the jet stream and our weather. So that is one positive, but as I said, prayers out to those people being affected at the moment. Now, if we do continue through, you can see big low pressure system develops over the next day or two to our north. We could have seen this as a named storm a couple of days ago. Maybe like 2, 3, 4 days ago, but it is shifted further northwards, which means the strongest winds will stay offshore, but we still see the heaviest precipitation with it. Beyond that, we see a ridge of high pressure in from Monday, Tuesday. That's where we could see some dry, warm weather before low pressure pushes back in. And you can see the oscillating greens and oranges showing the higher and the lower pressure. And you can just see lots of these oscillating and wiggly isobars showing that the air and wind direction is changing. And we could see a little bit of a cut-off low developing there right towards the end of the run, but as you see, just running through its typical autumnal changeable conditions with everything coming in from the west. If we do move it through very quickly, you can just see all of the precipitation and the weather bands and everything that's impacting the UK is coming from northeast Canada and Greenland, all from the west and the north. So yes, a generally very unsettled autumnal sort of pattern. Again, it's impossible to pinpoint anything outside the next 5 or 7 days because it all depends on how severe these lows do develop and where exactly they do position. So the message for the mid to longer ranges is going to be very changeable. Some warmer, dry days, especially in the south, but some very unsettled, cool and miserable days, especially in the north. So if we do go over to the GM, see how that does compare over the next 10 days. Again, very similar, big low pressure developing and a general westerly flow. Brief high pressure build towards early next week, and then we can just generally see a westerly flow. Yes, high pressure perhaps more influential here, especially in the south, but you can see low pressure is gathering in the North Atlantic, and you see this dip in the jet that will be creating amplification, most likely will bring low pressure back towards most areas of the UK for at least a time. So GM has the jet stream shifted slightly further northwards, which means further southwards we could escape those big lows for a time, but I do suspect that it is just temporary, and we will still see those cooler, miserable conditions pushing through at it for a time as well. But the GM perhaps is slightly more optimistic, with maybe some more widespread dry and warm weather, especially across the southern half of the British Isles. And you can also have a look at the upper air temperatures, and you can see not too bad. We are still early in the autumn, so we still have warm air masses to our south, and could still see the 10, maybe max 15 degree isotherm push in. Could even see 20 to 25 degrees for a time if we do see these sort of conditions. But again, all dependent on those upper air temperatures, and we're not going to really be able to pinpoint those until nearer the time, unfortunately. If you have a look at the Ecmwf, see how those do compare over the next, or how that does compare over the next 10 days. Again, low pressure pushing in from the west, quite unsettled. We again continually see these bands of precipitation, the wiggly weather fronts, and the jet stream pushing in. Yes, high pressure definitely more influential in the south. Here, similar to the GEM, but we're still seeing those pushes of unsettled weather, especially next week, especially in the north. But remember, these weather fronts can extend even into the higher pressure zones further southwards. Yes, they'll be weaker, the winds won't be as strong, it won't be as unsettled, but it still will bring miserable weather. And you see at day 10 that kink in the jet stream just out towards northeast Canada. That's most likely gathering a big area of low pressure ready to push towards the UK and push this high pressure out of the way. But at day 10, similar to the GM, we do have a generally warmer higher pressure. Again, nothing crazy, but slightly above average, around 4 degrees above average at this point. So if we finish, have a look at the ensembles. You can generally see we are slightly below average at the moment, but for the foreseeable future we're going to be oscillating above and below average, maybe a good few days above average around the 5th, 6th of October. That's when we could see maybe 20 degrees plus. You do see precipitation is quite a bit more minimal around that sort of 4th to 9th of October point, maybe 4 or 5 days of drier weather in the south. That's when we have that higher pressure ridge building in, but you can see in the longer term, cooler weather returns and more unsettled condition does return as well. So I do suspect the south could see quite a few drier days, but it will be very, very uncertain depending on the positioning of the low pressure. At this stage, it doesn't look likely they're going to be drier, but we can't say for certain until we get into sort of the 5-day time frame, and even then, maybe even a 3-day time frame, because these low pressure systems and high pressure systems can subtly shift in position, and that can make a huge difference on what we see at the surface. We can also have a look at the sea level pressure, and you can see a lot of up and downs, a lot of dips, potentially around the 5th, 6th of October, so that's a low pressure system moving through. Again, not severe low, at least for the south, but could be more severe further northwards and could give precipitation at times. So yeah, the south does look generally on the higher pressure level, but it is deceiving, and I do think there still will be areas of precipitation in just typical autumnal conditions. If we do have a look at Glasgow, for example, trending slightly lower in terms of precipitation, and look at the pressure, and you can see, look at the precipitation much higher around that 5th to 9th of October point. So those low pressure systems are there, they're just positioned further northwards instead of further southwards. So this is why definitely do think, even though the south is showing dry conditions at this time, the rain is not too far away and can subtly shift further southwards in only a few runs. If we do finish the video by having a look at the Ecmwf ensembles, you can see, again, very similar to the GFS, up and down, above and below average. More of a precipitation trend around that 5th to 9th of October area, though. So Ecmwf definitely have those lower pressure systems further southwards, at least the ensembles do, and it generally does look like we're going to be seeing a lot of dry weather, but also a lot of wetter, miserable weather. And as I said, it's typical autumnal conditions with weather patterns oscillating and changing day on day. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.